Epilogue. Jesse smiled as he glanced over at Kate. He'd tied a cloth around her eyes to keep them shut as he led her to the new homestead. It wasn't the only surprise he had planned for her today, but it was the first and probably most important. "Are you ready?" Considering I am unsure what to be ready for, I find it hard to answer the question, but I suppose I am as ready as I can be. She smiled hesitantly. "Keep your eyes closed until I say to open them," he said as he untied the cloth. He wanted to be sure and see her reaction when she saw the new house for the first time. "All right, open them." Her eyes opened, and her hand flew to her mouth as it dropped open. "It's finished?" "It is." Jesse had not expected the dwelling to be finished this soon, but many of the men in town had helped when they could, allowing the construction to progress faster than normal. It wasn't much different from the original homestead, except for the additional space and the flat roof that he hoped would allow him to build a second floor one day. "It's beautiful. Can I see the inside?" "Of course." Jesse pressed his lips together to hide his smile. Many of their friends were waiting inside the house to surprise her even more. Ellen and Sarah had rallied the women to help decorate the inside, and the men had helped Jesse build the furniture. He hoped she wouldn't be too disappointed sharing this experience with her friends. She admired the porch and the railing as they approached the front door, and when he opened the door, her hand flew to her chest when the clapping and cheers carried out. "What is this?" She asked the question quietly, leaning closer so only he could hear her words. "Your friends were disappointed that they didn't get to come to our wedding, and that our last night of dancing was cut short. Besides, they helped get this place ready, so I thought it only fitting that they help us celebrate. I hope that's okay." Kate smiled at him and squeezed his hand. "It is more than okay. Thank you." "Welcome home and congratulations," Sarah cried, running over to Kate and enveloping her in a hug. "You do know we've been married for months now, right, Miss Miller?" Jesse asked. Sarah shot him a look. "Yes, but now you have a wonderful new house as well. Kate, I cannot wait to show you all we did." She grabbed Kate's hand to take her around the room, and Jesse smiled as he watched her eyes light up at each new thing. A slight thud sounded, and a large hand landed on his shoulder. James's foot was nearly healed, but evidently the break had been bad enough that he would have a slight limp the rest of his life. "I think the house turned out well, Jesse," James began. "Thank you for letting me help." Jesse shook his head. "I couldn't have done it without you, so thank you." He shook hands with a few more of the men before making his way closer to Kate to hear her reaction to the women's surprise. "Do you like the decorating?" Sarah asked. "We all helped." "It's beautiful, Sarah. Thank you so much." Jesse was not surprised to see a sheen in her eyes. He had no doubt she was fighting back tears, but he sucked in a breath when he saw Rebecca step forward. She'd been the most outspoken opponent of Kate as Pauline's best friend. "I don't think we've officially met," Rebecca said. She didn't offer a hand, though. They stayed behind her back. "I'm Rebecca, and Pauline was my best friend. I'm sorry for the way I've treated you, and I wanted—" She looked around her. "We wanted to tell you how brave we think you are. We all admire you." She brought her arms forward, revealing a wrapped package. Kate took the package and looked around at all the women. "Open it," they said. Kate tore the paper back and lifted the lid. Inside was a beautiful quilt. "We each brought a square of fabric from home and sewed it together," Sarah said. "It's a wedding quilt for your bed. We work on these during our quilting bees. I'm sorry we couldn't invite you this time, but we hope you'll join us for the next one." This time, a tear did sneak out of Kate's eye and trickled down her cheek as she regarded each of the women in front of her. "Thank you." Emotion choked her voice. "This means so much to me." "Well, you mean a great deal to us," Ellen said, coming to her side. Jesse stepped to her other side and whispered in her ear. "See, I told you they'd love you when they got to know you." Kate nodded and leaned into him. "Shall I go and put this on the bed?" Ellen asked, taking the quilt from Kate's arms. "Thank you." "On that note, I think it is time for cake," Sarah said, before she hurried to the kitchen. A few of the women went with her, and minutes later, slices of cake began circling the room. "This is wonderful, Jesse. Thank you for the surprise." "Is it really all right? I wondered about letting other women decorate for you, but Sarah and Ellen seemed confident they would know what you liked." She smiled and shook her head. "They did a wonderful job. I don't think I could have done a better one myself, and I am very glad to be back in our home." "Me too." As nice as it was for Clark and Martha to help them out, he was ready to return to a homestead as well. "Oh, I almost forgot. This came for you at the post office today." He pulled an envelope from his pocket and handed it to her. Her eyes lit up as she read the name on the envelope. "It's from my brother." "That's wonderful." He wrapped an arm around her waist. "How are they doing?" She opened the letter and scanned it quickly, her eyes widening as she read. "Well," she said with a mischievous smile, "it turns out I'm going to be an aunt soon." He tightened his grip on her waist and tugged her closer. "That is good news indeed, and it reminds me of something I'd like to ask you." "What is that?" Kate asked with a tilt of her head. "Well, with Easterly taken care of, and things calming down in town, I wanted to ask you what you thought of motherhood." "I think it's a very noble profession," Kate said, biting back her smile. "Indeed it is," he said. "But I suppose my question was more, would you like to be a mother?" "I would like that very much, Deputy Jennings." This time she didn't bother to hold back the smile. "As would I." Their gazes locked for the briefest of moments, and then Jesse leaned his head down to touch Kate's lips with his own. The end. The journey to Sage Creek isn't over. Keep reading to find out Emma's story and meet the rest of her family. This has been An Unexpected Love. Sage Creek Romance Book 1. Written by Lorana Hoops. Narrated by Lorana Hoops. Audio copyright 2022.